G'day everyone, welcome to Two Wheel Workshop. I'm Brody and this is my 2015 KTM RC390. I bought this bike as a general knockaround / track day bike because I want to start doing track days, and the old XS650s that I've got really aren't the right kind of bike to be doing that on. I've already done one video on it and that was the tail tidy install, but this video is going to be the first in a series of maintenance videos that I do. I'll caveat that by saying I'm not a mechanic, I am just a hobbyist, but I do have a fair bit of experience working on bikes and cars, and I will follow the factory manual over there to the letter to make sure that I don't give you any incorrect information. Alright, so to perform this task you're going to need a metric socket set, a metric Allen key set, and an assortment of screwdrivers, pliers, and all those kind of basic automotive hand tools. On top of that, you're going to need an air filter. I've bought the stock factory air filter. Unless your bike's been flashed or you've got a power commander, I don't recommend going the high flow filters because you're just going to make it run lean, or leaner than it already is. I've also got the full oil filter service kit. You don't need to buy the whole thing usually, but because this bike is new to me and I don't know how it's been maintained, I've bought everything new. That comes with new O-ring, both of the new drain bungs, both the screens and an oil filter. You're also going to need at least 2 litres of 1550 weight fully synthetic oil. I've got the Penrite factory racing spec oil. So this is the factory manual. It does say 2014 up there, but it's the exact same model. So we'll flick to the service schedule. Because I've only just bought this bike, I want to make sure it's good to go. So I'm going to do the complete 75,000 kilometre or 4,650 mile service. So everything that's listed here that has a dot in this column here is part of that service. The first one is read out the fault memory using the KTM diagnostics tool. I don't have that, so that's one that I'm going to skip. Checking the functionality of electrical equipment, I won't go over that because that's pretty self-explanatory. Changing the engine oil and oil filter and cleaning the oil screen. Alright, so the first thing we're going to have to do to change the oil is remove the fairings. And to do that, there's 3 expanding rivets up in under here that hold the fairing to the front grille. So this is a bit awkward to show you, but you can see there's 3 expanding rivets. One here, and there should be one up here, but we've lost that one. And the same on the other side. Now I'm not going to be able to take them off and show you at the same time, so I'll take it off and then I'll show you how to remove the expanding rivets on the bench. This is the expanding rivet. It's got 2 parts. It's got this shaft that goes through the middle, and then it's got these claws, I guess you'd call them, that kind of expand. To get them out, take a little screwdriver and push this shaft through, and that'll allow the teeth or the claws to close in a bit and you'll be able to pull it out. Now these ones are pretty shit, and as you can see I only have 3 left and they've all got at least 1 broken tooth on them. Those have been superseded. These are KTM original parts as well, and you can see they've got this little Torx head on them, and you screw that in to expand them and then you can screw them back out. So I'm replacing all of my expanding rivets with this new type. Right, and then we've got 3 5mm socket head bolts here, here and here, and 2 4mm socket head bolts here and in here. Right, once we've got all those out, the side fairing should just pull away. And we'll just repeat that process on the other side. Next, we're going to remove the spoiler. To do that, it's a mixture of socket head screws and 10mm bolts. At the front, you've got a socket head screw in here and one on the other side. On the side, you've got one here underneath the brake lever. Underneath the bike, you've got one here and one on the other side here. Don't touch this one at the back, and then it's going to be really awkward to show you, but there's 2 10mm bolts, one here and one here, holding the whole thing to the muffler. Alright, I'll get the bolts attaching the spoiler to the muffler first. I end up fucking breaking this thing. That was on there pretty good. So that was jammed on there really good and it just wouldn't let it come away. And there is the spoiler. Alright, so over on the left hand side of the bike now, we've got two drain plugs. We've got one here. For that you'll need an 18mm socket, and behind that you've also got a oil screen and an O-ring. And then underneath the bike here, you've got one facing forward at a 45-degree angle. That one also has an oil screen, and for that you'll need a 13mm socket. Alright, so we'll place a drain pan underneath the bike and we'll remove those. There it goes. Over on the right hand side of the bike now, we'll just reposition the oil drain pan and we're going to remove the filter. The filter is underneath this cover here, and to do that we've got to remove these two bolts. They are 8mm bolts. We'll give that a bit of persuasion with a soft hammer. And we'll try and dig this out with a screwdriver. Alright, so we'll have a quick look at this and make sure there's no nasty surprises floating around in the engine. I can't see any big particles. There's no metal shavings in this screen. That's a good sign. This one's looking pretty good too. And the filter itself looks pretty good as well. Alright, now as I said before, you can clean these and reuse them. I don't need to, however, because I've bought new ones. Obviously we're going to need to reuse this cap, but I've got a new O-ring for that, so we'll replace that now. Get a bit of oil on the O-ring first. Alright, and all this can go in the bin. And now we'll replace the oil filter. Just make sure all the sealing surface, all the mating surfaces here are clean. Right, these tiny little M5 bolts are very easy to strip and they're into an aluminium housing. So I recommend always use a torque wrench. The torque setting for these is 8 Newton meters. Even that feels a bit tight to me. Very paranoid. Right, back over on the right hand side of the bike now. We've got our new drain bung and new screen. Just take a bit of oil and lubricate the O-rings before we go putting these in. And same as for with the oil filter, we'll torque that. The torque setting for this one is 15 Newton meters. Which actually does not feel like a lot at all. Alright, and we've got our new drain bung for the front and our oil screen for that. They need to be pre-assembled before we put them in. Once again, just lubricate the O-ring, and then these little clips will clip into a recess inside this drain bung. Slippery hands. Can't get a bloody grip on the thing. And the torque setting for this is 12 Newton meters. Alright, so now we'll refill the oil. You want to make sure the bike is on a level surface and that it's level. So if you don't have a paddock stand, you'll have to get someone to hold the bike level for you. We need to refill with 1.7 litres of the oil that I showed you before. So we'll remove the filler plug. And the bike has a level sight glass here with an upper and lower limit. So it is 1.7 litres, so we'll put that in and we'll make sure it sits between these lines and we'll top it up as required from there. As you can see, the sight glass is completely full. That's because all the oil galleries in the engine are empty. So once we run it, that level should drop. So you can see now that we've done that, it is sitting bang on the low mark. So I'll give it a bit more. See if I can get it right on the upper limit. Check the brake discs and the front and rear brake linings. So when we're checking the brake discs, we're looking for any obvious scoring or cracking. These look pretty good. I'll run my finger across there and there's no noticeable step. Sometimes when they're getting really worn, the brake pad will wear into the disc and you'll feel a step there and there. So that's all good. What we'll do now is we'll measure the overall width of the disc using the vernier calipers. The minimum allowable width for the front disc is 4.5 millimeters, and this one's at bang on 5 millimeters, and the minimum allowable width for the rear disc is 3.6 millimeters. So we'll repeat this process on the rear. When you're checking the pads, you want to make sure you've got at least 1 millimeter of usable pad left. As you can see, there's still a fair bit left on this. These ones have a groove down the center, which is a good indication. As you start to wear towards the end of that groove, that's when you want to start looking at getting new brake pads. Same story on the rear. There's plenty of pad left there. Next is checking the tyre condition and air pressure. I'm pretty sure you all know how to do that. My tyres are getting towards the end of their life and they'll need replacing. The book lists the required tyre pressure as 29 psi front and rear. I generally run with 30, so that's pretty close. Now we'll check the rear brake fluid level. To check the rear brake fluid level, the rear brake reservoir is here, and all we have to do is make sure that the fluid is not below the minimum line. And as you can see, this is well above that, so we're all good there. The next step is check the shock absorber and fork for leaks. Perform a fork service and shock absorber service as needed and depending on how the vehicle will be used. Alright, so to check your forks for any leaks, you're looking for any fluid weeping from your seals around here. And if it's been sitting for a while and you notice any drips underneath them, you're probably due new fork seals. So that'll be an upcoming video. Same story with the rear shock. You're looking for any fluid leaking out along here, and thank God this shock looks pretty good. Next, check the chain, rear sprocket and engine sprocket, and check the chain tension. To check the chain and sprockets, the first thing we'll do is remove this cover. So we'll check the front sprocket first. Alright, and what we're looking for here is any shark toothing on the teeth of the sprocket. As you can see, these ones look pretty symmetrical and they're nice and straight. When they start to get worn, they'll wear out on the front here and they'll start hooking backwards. I don't have a worn sprocket here to show you, but I'll try and Google an image and put it up. So we'll check all those teeth. It's probably starting to get a bit worn, but it's still got life left in it. Same for the rear. The teeth are starting to get a little bit narrow. I think these sprockets have probably been flipped once or twice. There's still a bit of life left in there, but I think by next service these are definitely going to need replacing. Alright, to check the chain tension, there's two ribs on the swing arm, here and here. Where they meet in the middle, that's where you want to check the tension. So place a ruler against the swing arm, push the chain all the way up, and it should be within 5 to 7 millimeters. But as you can see, this one's nearly touching, so the chain needs tensioning. So over on the right hand side of the bike, we've got the rear axle nut. We'll need to loosen that one first. Next, we'll release the locking nuts on the adjusters on both sides. For that, you'll need a 14mm spanner, and it's this front one here. It's a bit awkward while it's on the paddock stand because it's getting in the way, but we'll do our best. Actually, I'll swap over to the cradles for the paddock stand because that'll make things easier. See how that goes. Right, so next what you want to do is tension the chain by turning the adjuster counterclockwise, and whatever you do to one side you have to do to the other to make sure the wheel stays true. So we'll start off with half a turn, then I'll re-measure the chain tension, and I'll continue that process until we land at about 5 to 7 millimeters. 1, 2, 3, that's half a turn. One, 2, 3. We'll check that. Right, half a turn was all it needed. That's bang on 5 millimeters now. So what we'll do is we'll lock off the lock nut. When you do this, you want to make sure you hold the adjuster so it doesn't move. On both sides. Then what you want to do is re-torque the rear axle, and the torque setting for this is 90 Newton meters. To check the condition of the chain while it's on the bike, you'll need to find a way to hang a 15 kilo weight from the chain. So as you can see, I've jerry-rigged this plate weight with a bit of chain and a hook to hang off the chain here, and then we need to measure the length between 20 of the chain rollers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so the maximum allowable distance between those is 301.6 millimeters. This is sitting on about 304 millimeters. So this chain is cactus and it needs replacing. And while I'm at it, I'm going to replace both the front and the rear sprockets as well. But that's going to be the subject of another video. Check the brake lines for damage and leakage. As I go over the bike, I'll just check that as I go. Check the brake fluid level of the front brake. The front brake reservoir is located on your handlebars here, attached to your front brake lever. And there's a sight glass here where you can check the level, and you can see there's a minimum mark. Now your fluid level has to be above that minimum mark, and I can't see any in there. That's a worry. So we'll remove the cover and see what's going on. All right, there is plenty of brake fluid in there. It's just completely clear. Happy with that. Check that the radiator fan is functioning properly. I ride this bike fairly regularly and it's pretty hard to miss the radiator fan kicking in, so I know that works. Change the air filter and clean the air filter box. Replacing the air filter on these things is not the most straightforward process. So the first thing you're going to need to do is remove the seat. Remove the battery cover. And then we'll remove the tank cover. So to do that, we're going to have to take off the fuel cap. For this, I'm using a 4mm Allen key. You've got to undo all 7 of these. There's also 2 socket head screws, one on each side, one here and here, so we'll remove those. Forgot we actually have to remove this as well. Just to make sure I don't drop anything down there, I'll block that up with a rag. Right, we also need to remove the 2 seat mounting hooks. Right, and from there we should be able to just pull out on the sides of the tank cover and lift it away. All right, from there we need to undo the 2 rear fuel tank mounting bolts here and here. All right, now we can lift the rear of the tank slightly so we can get to the airbox lid retaining bolts here and here. So we'll undo those and we'll remove the airbox lid. Right, the airbox lid itself is attached to the snorkel here, so we're just going to try and lever that out the way and pull out the old air filter, which you can see is pretty dirty. I'll give all this a bit of a wipe out with a rag. It's all pretty clean in there. So now we'll just replace it with the new filter. What a pain in the ass. This was not very well thought out when they made this bike. I feel like the back should clip under something, but when I try and lift up on it, it's not lifting up. So I think so I'm pretty sure it's sealed. I'll look at it from the side and it's got an even kind of gap all the way around. Not really a gap, like obviously it's sealing on the sealing surface. So I'm pretty sure that's good. We'll replace the bolts. Alright, so the next 4 steps aren't part of the service. Then we've got check the steering head bearing for play. I'm not going to do that today because I already know that I'm going to have to replace the fork seals, so that'll be part of that video. Then we've got check the low and high beam headlight adjustment. I know they're good, I'm going to skip that one. Check that the throttle cables are undamaged, routed without sharp bends and set correctly. I already know that they are set correctly and there is no damage. The throttle snaps shut when I let it go and there's minimal free play in it. Then we've got the final check the vehicle for roadworthiness and take a test ride. Of course I'm going to take it for a test ride, but I'm probably not going to film that one. The next 2 steps are more for dealers. We've got read out the memory fault using the KTM diagnostics tool, can't do that one. And I don't even have the service book, so I'm not going to make the entry there. One thing that it doesn't tell you to do is to reset the service interval on your instrument cluster, so we'll go over that now. To reset the service interval, we have to make sure we're on odometer. You can see over here we're on trip, so we'll hit mode until we cycle through to odometer. There we go. Then we'll hit set until we cycle through and the service interval with the wrench is on top there. Then we'll hold set for 15 seconds. And as you can see, it resets to 7,500 kilometers. Okay, so that was the 7,500 kilometer service for a 2015 KTM RC390. As you can see, there was a bit of work fall out of that one. I've got to rebuild the forks and I've got to replace the sprockets and the chain. So keep your eye out for those videos. I'll link them somewhere up here once they're done. Yeah, I didn't intend on this video being this long, so if you've hung around to the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I would appreciate it even more if you'd like the video and subscribe to my channel, because it'll enable me to keep making videos like this one. Hopefully it was helpful, guys. I'll see you later.